Hello, and welcome to another edition of Between Two Owls. My name is Tom Price. I'm your host, and today with us is Professor of Physics at Temple University, Bernd Surrow.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us today. So why don't you tell me a little bit about where you grew up?
Okay, so while I'm speaking, you probably can still notice that a little bit at least. Um, I grew up in Germany, in the southern part in Germany, outside in a very small village outside of Stuttgart. And Stuttgart is the capital of the southwestern state, Baden-Württemberg. It's a very industrialized city, the home actually of Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, and there are lots of little manufacturer deliveries of technological items to these companies. And that's pretty much the environment where I grew up with. I was very fortunate to was nourished by teachers in middle school and especially in high school. I did not grow up into an academic family. I grew up in a family, they were working, they were craftsmen, builders, people, they were extremely disciplined. I had the most wonderful childhood. Um, but I was nourished for my sparking my interest in science and in general in math by my teachers. Um, so I spent a whole year then after graduating from high school as valedictorian. My math teacher, he recommended me for a scholarship for the German National Academic Foundation for a scholarship. And part of that was actually also go to the United States for a year. I did my military service in Germany in the mountain division when I was probably 40 pounds less than now, probably even more than that. Um, in hindsight, I had a very nice time there. And then I started studying physics and math at the University in Würzburg, which is in the northern part in Bavaria, very, very beautiful place. For the first two to 3 years. I got my bachelor's degree there. And then I went to Stony Brook University,
Hmm.
intentionally thinking I spent there a year, but then I ended up spending 2 years there, um, getting actually a master's degree in physics from Stony Brook University. And this was eventually accepted by in Germany as the equivalent to a diploma degree. And then was able to right away start with my PhD. And I had a long discussion, should I do my PhD at Stony Brook University or go back? But I was working already as an undergraduate student for a high energy physics lab in Hamburg in Germany, and decided then to go back and pursue my PhD then back in Germany.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about so when you were growing up, what else did you do besides school? Were you involved in any sports, play any musical instruments?
So concerning sports, I had extremely good grades. I was basically a straight A student, except one class, and that was gym. So my mom always used to tell me I'm way too stiff to be successful in gym. So I was never playing as in a sports team or anything like that. It didn't really capture also my interest. Also not from home. So my mom or my grandparents were not really into that. I There are two things in hindsight what I was very passionate about, which was music. From a very young age, I played a trumpet. So
Awesome.
that was one thing. And then the other thing, I was very, very active in a Catholic church community as an altar boy for
Mhm.
various social events, social gatherings, social activities. Um, that was basically my childhood, my teenage time. Yeah.
So when you were in your initial schooling, and even maybe when you went to Stony Brook, were there any particular faculty members that had an influence on you?
Oh, absolutely. So there was a young faculty member at Stony Brook University, Tom Hemick. He's still a
Hmm.
faculty member there. He was a young faculty member, and I came to Stony Brook thinking I will be a theoretician one day, in majoring in theoretical physics and becoming a professor, hopefully in theoretical physics. Um, but that completely changed while I was at Stony Brook University. And I think a big part is due to Tom Hemick. I started then a thesis project, master thesis project, at the laboratory where I do since 20 years my research work at Brookhaven National Laboratory on Long
Hmm.
Island. Um, a prototype testing, and he really worked with me a lot in the lab, and I learned quite a bit of him, and not to be fearful to do something in a lab, but he really sparked my interest to pursue then an experimental PhD thesis in high energy physics. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit. How did you end up at Temple?
So I ended up at Temple. Let's see. In I was after my postdoctoral time in Geneva, in a Brookhaven National Laboratory, a very short period of time. I was on the faculty at MIT for almost 10 years, um, until in September, fall 2010, one of the faculty members here at Temple University, Andreas Metz, invited me for a colloquium in March 2011. And that was still in Barton Hall, where the new library is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really amazed by the plans for at here at Temple University for a new building and the potential resources to be offered. And people ended up, arranging this dinner for a colloquium, almost like an interview. I was then invited again in May, and they made me an offer. I had lots of discussions with Hai Long Dai, and I never regret. And that's how I came here and started in January 1 as a tenured faculty member, January 1, 2012.
Awesome. So what do you like most about your job?
Um, in hindsight, after all of these years, I would say working with young people at the end of the day. Uh, if I mean, as a faculty member, you do service, you do teaching, and you do research work. Probably I would not have said this 10 years ago, but now I would say my number one thing is teaching. Teaching educated students. Education also in not only in the classroom, but also in the lab with graduate students. So meaning I could not imagine anymore to go back to a national lab. And I would completely miss that aspect about academic life, engaging with young students from freshman students to senior graduate students, that transition to graduating them, and also working with postdoctoral fellows.
Awesome. Do you have any memorable Temple events or students or
Oh, absolutely.
activities or initiatives that stand out to you?
Um, so thinking back when I'm now turning to my right and I see the new library building, I will never forget. It must have been maybe in summer 2014. How many times did I pass by the construction of the new CERC building? And there was nothing. And at one point we saw a big hole, and then there was this steel structure there. And I remember it must have been maybe in late spring, maybe the summer 2014, when I was allowed to, with some others, maybe with Roger Katita, I think it was with him, to walk through the CERC building.
Mm.
I was literally in my office when everything was completely raw. That was quite memorable. I also tremendously enjoy, and I think this is um, a wonderful event, a commencement when you have a graduate student hooding a graduate student.
Mm.
And I remember in particular one of my graduate student, his grandparents came, his mom came, his two brothers came, and he was the first one to even go to the university. And
Mm.
then he earned his PhD here. They were really very proud of him and thanked me, was shaking my hand and pushing him to come to this goal. I mean, this you cannot get anything more rewarding than that.
Awesome. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about. So, what do you currently like to do to relax?
Um, uh,
Do you relax? So maybe I should have said, do you have any time to relax?
yes. Um, uh, if so, okay. Um, I tremendously miss so my sports, my activity. Um, as I said in the beginning, I'm not a sports fanatic or anything like this, but my sports activity is swimming. This is one thing I'm deeply grateful to my mom to push my sister and me to learn how to swim. And so I tremendously miss when the pool in Mechanical Hall when it closed in spring. So I joined up for LA Fitness, and I just go tremendous, almost swimming almost daily recently, uh, where any worries about anything work related or any other worries, I just completely forget and can totally relax. I would say this is one of the most wonderful thing about that.
Awesome. So I want to do something called rapid fire response. I'm just going to give you 2 words, and you just tell me your preference or pass. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Dark or milk chocolate?
Oh, milk chocolate.
Offense or defense?
Defense.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Bert or Ernie? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Bird.
Half full or half empty?
Half full.
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Awesome. Bernd, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great having you on the show. You have a great day.